that really brought about me getting out there, performing, and eventually bringing out my collection sort of stemmed from Lazarus's adventures. So I owe him a great deal, and he's a very interesting chap, and I'm sure you're going to be interested in what he has to read of his wonderful new Odyssey. Lazarus.
No, it's afternoon now, isn't it? I don't know what the afternoon is for us. Spring now, right, okay. Right, thank you very much, Karen, for that introduction. That's very, very sweet of you indeed. I have to say, the first time that I ever saw Karen perform was at a songwriting and poetry competition that I run every year at a festival that I run. And she won. And I thought I'd discovered the next Pam Ayres, I tell you. She was awesome. So thank you, Karen. Right, okay. Why am I here? I've written a couple of books, but this one, Crach, Ffinnant-The Prophecy, I guess has got a lot of mileage in it. When I finished writing it, I had 30 rejections from various publishing houses. And, excuse me, last year, back end of last year, I submitted the manuscript to a writing competition online in America with a big publishing house. And a couple of weeks later, after they asked for the rest of the manuscript, I had a look, and there was like over 4,000 people had sent their manuscripts in. So I said to my good lady, well, we can forget that and we'll put that to one side. So you can imagine my absolute surprise on the 25th of February this year when I got an email first thing in the morning telling me that I'd won first prize in the competition, which was in fact a full publishing and agency contract, which is why Crach Ffinnant is here. So this has been out now for about 4 months since it was released, and the follow-up to it, The Rise of the Dragon, is out in a fortnight's time, ready for Christmas. So I've got a good publisher, but they're in America. But not to worry, we've got to start somewhere. So rather than me sort of, do anything else in terms of reading from the book, I want to tell you a little bit about Crach and why I wrote about him, and then I'll do a bit of an abstract from the book for you. Crach Ffinnant did exist in history. He rode next to Glyndŵr as his prophet and seer for many, many years, and he was a big pal of the Bishop of St. Asaph as well. However, Crach was a dwarf, and he was a prophet and a seer. Nobody knows anything about him at all, apart from Iolo Goch mentions him in the Big Red Book twice in a couple of his poems, saying that he was a dwarf, a prophet, and a seer, and he rode with Glyndŵr. So other than that, we knew nothing. Now, some years ago, I was involved with some Glyndŵr stuff, and I wrote a song about Glyndŵr. The following year, a friend and I did a stage play, a pantomime for kids called The Fairy Knight's Tale, where I actually role-played as narrator Crach Ffinnant. So that's where Crach was born. And when I decided to write about him last year, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have a clue. I mean, who does? Nobody knows anything about him. So I made it up. And I made it fit very loosely into Glyndŵr's life as well. So there are 7 books planned in the series, and the first 2 are done. And as I say, the first one's out, and the next one's out in a couple of weeks. So, a quick read, I'll just dip into the book rather than anything else. It's the best one. Right in the middle of a damn paragraph as well. Chapter, anyway. Okay. This is an interesting scene because this is where Crach has he's left Wales now, he's on his way to London, you see. Just to give you a bit of background, at the age of 25, after quite a long apprenticeship, his old master, Clwyd ap Crach and Clwyd, dispatches him on a great mission to London with some sacred scrolls, and tells him that he will one day ride with Glyndŵr. Of course, being a dwarf, Crach, and a prophet and a seer, never having been out of Wales before in his life, can't believe a word of this. So he's not in the slightest bit interested, and the last thing he wants to do is to go to London. And what makes it even worse is that his old master says to him, you're going to join a travelling circus in Shrewsbury, and you're going to be a performing dwarf, which went down like a brick in a swimming pool for Crach. So, he did, and he made his way to London, and when he got there, he was supposed to search out one of Crach's old friends, who was an undercover spy for the Welsh in the court of King Richard. So, this is the scene where he meets Master Healy. I woke up early the next morning, having been visited in my dreams by Crach. He shared his delight with me of how his work had come to fruition until this point. I had been in awe of him during our dreamscape. His aura blinded me, shining more brightly than I had ever witnessed previously. He said that upon my waking today, I would hear words to my advantage, and insisted I listen carefully. He concluded his visit by giving me a scroll, but telling me I would only be able to read it during my dream time. Leaning upon one elbow while still lying under my sheepskin, I twisted my head around and saw Master Healy sat at the table, busily writing on parchment, scrawling with a quill between finger and thumb stained black within. He looked up, and when he saw I was awake, he smiled and put the quill down on the table, neatly placing it by the parchment. "So you returned from your slumbers, Crach," he laughed. "I think you had a visitor during your dreams, and I wager it was the same one that came to me too." "My master also visited you, Master Healy?" I asked. Surprised, I immediately sat upright, swinging my legs off the cot and letting them dangle above the floor below. "He did indeed, Crach, he did indeed." The old man smiled, a grin from ear to ear, lighting up his face. Master Healy stood up from the table and walked over to the fire, poked at the embers in the grate, and placed a few pieces of kindling strategically before bending his head and blowing gently until the flames took hold. Adding a log, he turned to me and said, "We have much to discuss again today, Crach, but first, let us eat our breakfast." He disappeared, leaving through a small doorway at the back of the room, and returning a little while later, clasping bread and cheese in his hands. "Let us break our fast, Crach." So much to talk about, I had no idea what may come, but what was astounding was the story as it unfurled. The hours of this day flew by as a murder of crows at dusk. I now knew all there was to know about what was happening and why. I understood, thanks to the patience of Master Healy in the explaining of the matters at hand. For over 100 years and beyond, the English had terrorised Wales and waged unreasonable demands upon my countrymen. Master Healy said it was incongruous that Wales paid taxes to the English when Wales belonged to the Welsh, who had their own royal heritage. He told me that the castles were built by the English without the permission of our princes. This stands wrong within the scheme of things. The heavens and the earth are as one in the soul of a Welshman. The words of Crach shared with both Master Healy and myself when visitors in our dreams during the previous night's slumber. His magic and ability within the dream world were indeed awesome to behold. I was already amazed he could talk to me in my dreams. But now, to know that he also visited Master Healy on the very same night staggered me beyond belief. But believe I certainly did. Thank you.